Hello people, this is a video tutorial on the steps to change the permissions or ownership and set auto mount preferences of drives or devices connected in a Linux OS based desktop PC. The specific system for this tutorial is an Arch based Linux distribution, the Garuda Linux Dragonized Gaming OS with a KDE Plasma desktop environment. Excuse me. Apologies to those who don't prefer the Garuda Dragonized Plasma desktop environment or system color theme. You can see it's quite colorful. A quick background before the tutorial, and this video has chapters, so if you wish to skip forward to to the tutorial steps, you can do that. But by way of explanation, by default, system devices are often owned by root, not the user, because essentially because that installation, the user is the name of the user is not known, and so when it's first installed and you create a user profile, that's not automatically used for the purposes of being able to change the permissions of devices, because and the system doesn't know which devices you want to own or have permissions for anyway. So this is why this sort of manual setting of this is necessary. Um, so the owner is it's often root, not the user, which does not allow devices to be auto mounted, even if they are formatted in a suitable file system format, nor for folder contents to be modified. There may be many reasons why users wish to change ownership of system drives or devices, but the two that are in focus for this video are setting device auto mount at login or device attachment, and secondly, selecting locations to install games via the Steam game launcher, which requires access to specific directories, both of which have led me to investigate this topic after some initial difficulties. Many tutorials and guides to these steps to achieve device ownership change identify using the System Terminal app. I've read some of them, and as someone with a relatively intermediate level experience and understanding of Linux, I got a little lost when certain directions seemed not to work or were focused on other Linux distros than the Arch based distro that I was using. I also have a visual learning style and prefer to watch what is being typed or clicked on with the mouse. So I prefer visual graphical user interfaces where possible to achieve outcomes in Linux, despite the terminal commands often being quicker in many instances, which assumes that you know the commands and methods for changing settings or updating the system or installing apps, all of which is slightly different than the way in which you might go about it if you're, especially if you're coming from Microsoft Windows OS. So this tutorial will identify how to achieve changing ownership without the terminal commands. Firstly, let's focus on ownership change, as that's going to affect both the game installation and the auto mounting. And it's relatively simple. So this is the first area of focus. What you can see here is on screen is we have the Dolphin File Manager app up, and we can see all of our places and remotes and recent files, locations. And down here is the area of interest where we can see the devices that are connected to the system, some of which are drives, one of which is a phone. And we can choose one of these. I've already done this, so some of this is going to appear slightly different in as much as you won't see confirmation dialogues pop up because I've already done it. But the process is much the same. We can repeat it. It's not going to change anything. So if we select one at random, say this hard drive here, what you then do is come over to an empty space in the folder and right click in the empty space. Then we want to come down to the menu option that says root actions or something similar. This is Garuda Linux, and other Linux distros may name this slightly differently, but it'll probably have the word root in it somewhere. After that, we want to come down. You can see a number of choices in the next context menu, and the one that we're interested in is ownership to active user, because we are currently logged in as the active user on the system. You can also revert it back to root if you want, or you can select ownership to groups or other profiles on the system. But this is the one we want, ownership to active user. Select that and it'll come up with a check to say, do you wish to apply the changes recursively to all subfolders and files? Use with caution, and yes we do. So we click yes, and then it'll ask us for our password, and then we click OK, and that is it. We are done. The permissions of the drive have now been transferred or changed to the current user. If we right click on this on the said drive and we pull up the properties of the drive and we come across to the permissions tab, we can see now under the ownership section that the user AD Muir is now the owner of the drive, or device. Similarly, you can do it for devices, but we're talking about drives here primarily. Whereas by default, that reads as root as the owner. So now that we are the current user is the owner, we can as the owner we can then specify whether we want no access, view only, or to be able to view and modify the content. We then click OK, and we are done. And you would repeat that same process for any other drives. So recapping just quickly, right click in the, choose the drive, come over to the main panel, right click in an empty space, choose root actions, and then ownership to active user. Click yes, enter your password, and click OK, and you are done. As ever, it's wise to do a system restart to make sure that those changes have been saved and that they continue to begin as soon as you log in. So that's how to change ownership. Now, changing ownership will then allow us to do the two other things that we're focusing on here, which is game installation and auto mounting. So let's focus on the auto mounting firstly. We will minimize Dolphin because we don't need that anymore. We want to pull up our settings, and then we want to come to the connected devices section and the choice for disks and cameras, and then we can see here that there's a device auto mount section. If you can't remember where exactly it is, you can just come up to the search bar and type auto, and it'll appear here. We select device auto mount, and we can now, because we have ownership of all of these drives now, we're able to specify here which of the ones we want to auto mount either at login or when they are attached, or both. And you can toggle on which of the ones you want to happen at which points, or if you want all known devices, you check the top one, and then you have all of them auto mounting as soon as you log in. You click apply, do it just again just to make sure, and we can close the system settings and you're done. And so because we already changed the ownership of all those devices, auto mount will now let us do that. and they should auto mount when you log in, if that's what you're after. So that's good. This it's much easier than having to manually mount them each time because you're not the owner of the drive. So that's the first area of focus, and the second and last area of focus is with respect to installation of games via the Steam game launcher. So let's pull up Steam so we can see that, and we have here Call of Duty, which is currently not yet installed. So we click on the install button, and then when we do that, we have the opportunity to define or select which location to install the game. By default, it will have a location which is in the root um, directory, because the root directory has ownership of the of that device, which commonly in Windows terms you would call the C drive. It's the drive on the system that has the operating system installed in it. So that would be the default. But you wouldn't be able to select other locations if you're not ownership of them. So Steam requires that you have ownership of the drive in order to be able to write to it. So then you would come over to the manage storage or cog. When that comes up, I want to get out of family view, and we can see here that on this up the top there, we can see the storage location that that's going to be installed in. And if you will only be able to see the drives that you add here as locations that you want to be able to install games. But if none of them appear, if the only one that comes up is the games directory that is on the root directory of the C drive, for lack of a better term, then you need to add a drive. And in order to be able to add a drive, you need to be the owner of the drive for Steam to let you choose it as a install location. So we can see here that because we have some here that I've already nominated, but if it doesn't come up, you can choose the bottom one that says let me choose another location. When you choose that, you can then select add, and you have the opportunity to nominate the direct folder and directory in which you want. And because we have ownership of all these devices now, you can see here by default it's picking the user folder, because that's in the root directory, but we don't necessarily want to do that if we have a drive for that specific reason, and some people do. So, but if you're happy to install it on the root drive, that's fine if you've got enough space. I personally have a 1 terabyte M.2 drive for games. And so it's a bit larger and also has a faster read write speed for the game. So you can then click on that drive and specify the folder. You can see here there's already a Steam library here because I've already done this. And then you can select OK, and Steam will create a Steam library folder in which you can then it will then install the games that you want to install on it. And if you want, you can then choose, we'll cancel that because we've done it. And because we have multiple drives here, we also have the opportunity to decide which one we want to use. And we can also click on the settings button here, and we can say that this is already favorite. You can see by Steam will default to installing content on this hard drive, but if we wanted to select another one that we had just added, we could go select that one, and then we could choose to make it the default location so that any future installations of games would go straight to that folder for installation. But we're happy to install it on the one that we've created, and then you would merely click on install and choose. It will ask you for. It will still give you the choices, but you can still see the one which is favorited. You choose that and click on install, and away you go. So, and all of that is can only be achieved if the current user is the owner of the drive in question, which we showed you how to change in the first place. So there you go. How to change ownership and permissions of drives and devices in Garuda Linux, and also how to auto mount said drives at login or upon attachment, and finally how to specify um, the specific installation locations for games coming from your Steam game launcher. Thanks. If you liked the video, give it a like, share. Happy to receive any comments. If people have any questions, feel free. Or if they want to correct something they feel is not accurate, happy to receive that as well. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.